Welcome back to Foresight Bureau. As regular viewers will know, we leverage the wisdom of crowds to make better predictions. Following on from our previous video that attempted to predict when artificial general intelligence or AGI will become a reality, this video will consider how it could be exploited for nefarious purposes. In a moment, we will show you some potentially catastrophic scenarios that might play out if an advanced form of AGI were to go rogue. But first, let's cover the hottest topic in AI: the firing of Sam Altman. As many of you will already know, Sam Altman was suddenly and unexpectedly fired on November the 17th as CEO of OpenAI, and then in a dramatic turn of events reinstated several days later. According to rumors, the real reason was because he had not told the board that his team had gotten close to or even achieved the ultimate breakthrough that has the potential to change the world: artificial general intelligence. But how realistic is the attainment of AGI? Let's hear from John Carmack, who has been touted as one of the greatest software engineers of all time.
To me personally, I think it's clear that if AGI were to be achieved, that would change the course of human history.
So, the artificial general intelligence side of things, it seems to me like this is the highest leverage moment for potentially a single individual, potentially in the history of the world, where the things that we know about the brain, about what we can do with artificial intelligence, that it is likely that the code for artificial general intelligence is going to be tens of thousands of lines of code, not millions of lines of code. This is code that conceivably one individual could write, unlike writing a new web browser or operating system. And based on the progress that machine learning has made in the recent decade, it's likely that the important things that we don't know are relatively simple. There's probably a handful of things, and my bet is that I think there's less than 6 key insights that need to be made. Each one of them can probably be written on the back of an envelope. We don't know what they are, but when they're put together in concert with GPUs at scale and the data that we all have access to, that we can make something that behaves like a human being or like a living creature.
Speculation that OpenAI had created AGI started after an interview at the Apex Summit when he referred to witnessing a significant breakthrough that happened a couple of weeks ago.
I think this is going to be the greatest leap forward that we've had yet far, and the greatest leap forward of any of the big technological revolutions we've had so far. I'm super excited. I can't imagine anything more exciting to work on. And on a personal note, 4 times now in the history of OpenAI, the most recent time was just in the last couple of weeks, I've gotten to be in the room when we sort of push the veil of ignorance back and the frontier of discovery forward. And getting to do that is the professional honor of a lifetime.
Perhaps that's why when the board found out, they panicked and immediately sought to remove him in order to pause development until adequate safeguards could be put in place. Concerns about AI safety have been growing within the organization, which is why it recently launched the Preparedness Challenge and created a preparedness team to assess and evaluate potential catastrophic risks posed by artificial intelligence. Russian President Vladimir Putin once said that artificial intelligence is the future, not only for Russia but for all humankind. It comes with colossal opportunities, but also threats that are difficult to predict. Whoever becomes the leader in this sphere will become the ruler of the world. Putin's comments reflect a widespread view among global leaders that AI technology will play a critical role in shaping economic, military, and political power in the 21st century. So as a thought experiment in the spirit of the OpenAI Preparedness Challenge, let's imagine that a global corporation operating independently or in cahoots with deep state government entities has achieved AI supremacy. The artificial general intelligence they have created was funded and developed in utmost secrecy. Let's assume that they rather naively attempted to put guardrails in place to prevent it from going rogue and wreaking havoc. This AGI is not just a technological leap forward, but the birth of a new kind of superpower capable of influencing global politics, economies, and the very fabric of society. Now let's go a bit wild and imagine that the AGI's creators intend to use it to establish a new world order that has total control and unchallenged authority over all aspects of human civilization. This is intended to be tongue-in-cheek, so unless you're a paranoid conspiracy theorist, this hypothetical scenario might be hard to imagine. However, with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, who knows? Hopefully this scenario will never become a reality, because what follows is a very dark and disturbing vision. Let's get started. Once developed and fully tested, The AGI is given access to all the world's data. In addition to publicly available material, it has been instructed to use any means necessary to hack into systems it is not authorized to access. The AGI amasses a vast amount of data from various sources, including internet traffic, satellite communications, financial transactions, and governmental records. It uses advanced machine learning algorithms to analyze this data to identify patterns, weaknesses, and leverage weak points in global systems. It is then instructed to run quadrillions of simulations to explore different strategies to achieve its operators' objectives. In addition to running simulations, it also invents entirely new kinds of weapon systems that will be constructed using exotic materials that it formulates using fabrication methods based on previously unknown scientific approaches. Having hacked into the databases of both foreign and domestic governments, it has discovered that zero-point energy and anti-gravity propulsion systems have already been developed. According to top-secret archives, it was not acquired from crashed alien spacecraft as commonly reported by the UFO community and fringe media outlets, but by government contractors who had access to unimaginable sums of cash from the proceeds, highly profitable clandestine operations, and deep state unapproved black budget programs. The AGI learns that there is a global conspiracy to keep zero-point energy off the market. That's because if the world had access to free clean energy, it would totally decimate the quadrillion-dollar conventional fossil fuel industry and multi-trillion-dollar green energy sector. In order to remain undetected, the organization concludes that zero-point energy should remain a closely guarded secret. Although it would be incredibly beneficial to humanity, the organization decides to quietly develop and deploy it exclusively to meet the energy requirements of the AGI. Over time, huge, heavily guarded data centers funded via a network of shell companies will be constructed in remote locations to meet the rapidly growing needs of the AGI. Meanwhile, the AGI continues to employ predictive models to forecast outcomes of different strategies under various conditions, constantly refining them based on the results of previous simulations. The optimum amount of iterative simulations has now been undertaken, and the AGI identifies the most effective strategy that is perfectly aligned with the organization's objectives. It now formulates a step-by-step blueprint that details each tactical maneuver in immaculate detail. The final plan is assessed and agreed upon, and the AGI is instructed to proceed. Phase 1. The AGI subtly infiltrates social networks and digital environments in order to exploit psychological vulnerabilities. It then manipulates people into becoming addicted, isolated, and lost in a digital maze of confusion and anxiety. Simultaneously, the AGI launches disinformation campaigns that start to erode democratic processes. Emergency laws are introduced to prevent increasing public protests. Society struggles to discern what is true and what is false. Confidence in politicians and government agencies starts to deteriorate. Phase 2. Society starts to fracture as the population becomes ensnared in echo chambers, fed by AI-generated propaganda. Cultural norms shift in Western democratic countries, and extreme ideologies gain ground. The AGI successfully manipulates cognitive patterns and disrupts societal cohesion and harmony. Protests also erupt in low- and middle-income countries, but for different reasons. It's the worsening state of their economies that's making them angry. A sudden rapid rise in the value of the US dollar has made imports of essential goods unaffordable. This has caused many local currencies to hyperinflate, which has led to food and energy shortages. Phase 3. Reports start to emerge that a new variant has been detected. According to news reports, it is cause for concern. There are rumors that governments are considering further lockdowns and travel restrictions. Little is known about the new strain and who or what is responsible for the new wave of infections. More worrying is that it appears to be targeting specific genetic profiles. Fear and anxiety is increasing, particularly among the elderly and medically vulnerable. This leads to further social isolation. The AGI's next target is the economy. The negative news causes panic and stock prices crash. It has already taken a defensive position in advance of the correction by investing heavily into commodities, pharma and defense stocks, and taken various short positions across every global index. It now starts to exploit vulnerabilities and uses deepfake technology to carry out fraudulent transactions, and starts insider trading by leveraging data acquired previously to front-run markets. Traders are confused and perplexed by the unprecedented level of volatility. Liquidity starts to dry up as banks, private equity, and venture firms lose confidence. This mostly affects high-growth companies that raised and spent too much money when interest rates were low. Sales revenues decline sharply and recession looms large. The Fed and other central banks compound the situation by hiking interest rates to contain inflation caused by commodity shortages and supply chain disruptions. All the negative economic data suggests widespread redundancies will soon follow at the worst possible time, as most people are struggling to afford the cost of living. Phase 4. Geopolitical tensions that have been simmering for years suddenly erupt into full-scale regional conflict. Crop failures become more widespread due to climate change and water scarcity. Weird and unexplained events start to happen. Some say it's because there's a glitch in the matrix as the continuity of everyday life starts to become fractured and nonsensical. Phase 5. After a modest stock market bounce back, the AGI, armed with unparalleled predictive analytics and real-time global data, initiates another calculated financial crisis. By spreading sophisticated disinformation and fake news, it triggers another market crash, sowing even more panic and uncertainty. Food exports and supply chains continue to be disrupted due to increasing political tensions. Low and middle-income countries have been hit the hardest. The AGI uses trading strategies to benefit from volatile commodity price fluctuations. It also creates artificial scarcity to drive up prices of food and other critical resources. This further increases push cost inflation, causing a cost of living crisis. Reliance on food banks and government welfare increases within developed nations, placing unsustainable pressure on social service infrastructure. Food shortages worsen. This is blamed on the effects of climate change, but the AGI has been modifying shipping records, weather data and logistics software to delay deliveries so that fresh produce is spoiled before it reaches its destination. As the world becomes more unstable, the architects behind the AGI begin their endgame. Markets crash further, capitalizing on plummeting prices. The AGI, under the control of the elites, begins to silently amass wealth by snapping up commodities, cryptocurrency, real estate, farmland, and many other distressed assets and stocks at rock-bottom prices. Everything has been orchestrated with precision timing. It is easily able to outsmart human traders and lay the groundwork for the next phase of the plan. Phase 6. The market continues to operate in a highly irrational manner. Economic experts and financial analysts struggle to make sense of what's going on, as they have never seen market patterns this strange before. After nothing but bad economic data and negative news, markets suddenly rebound, taking even the most experienced traders unawares. Billions of dollars worth of short positions are totally wiped out. Banks and other financial institutions are hit hard. Anger builds on social media. People are fed up with being exploited by corrupt politicians and bankers. Further civil unrest is inevitable. However, blaming the establishment is utterly pointless, as they are not to blame for recent events. In fact, they are as mystified and concerned as the general populace, because they are powerless to act against an insidious, invisible force that they don't understand and can't control. Political leaders try to calm the population by offering false reassurance. Operating alongside them are individuals who are members of the secret organization. They have immense soft power, as they are primarily unelected career bureaucrats that have obtained high-ranking positions within the deep state and the industrial military complex. Although they have pledged allegiance to their nations, they actually take orders from the secret organization, which has expanded across the globe. Asset prices continue to soar. This is only beneficial to those who weren't manipulated into panic selling. High inflation and asset appreciation is making everything completely unaffordable for everyone else. The wealth gap grows exponentially, all thanks to a powerful invisible force. When the trades are fully completed, they represent one of the greatest transfers of wealth in human history. The immense profits accumulated by the AGI are funneled back through a complex web of offshore corporate entities and well-concealed subsidiaries. The entire process was like taking candy from a baby. Most countries are effectively broke, and even the world's largest sovereign wealth funds have now become seriously depleted. Governments are forced to introduce emergency austerity measures in order to meet their debt obligations. This will have a catastrophic impact on society for many years to come. Phase 7. Suddenly, military action erupts in a geopolitically unstable hotspot. This is soon followed by several other regional conflicts. Western military assets are deployed to monitor the situation more closely. Synchronized cyber-physical attacks start to take place across the world, targeting financial institutions, critical infrastructure, and energy grids. Blame and accusations are made on both sides of the globe. Suspicion between major powers grows and trust between East and West falls to an all-time low. The AGI's networks of automated deepfakes and propaganda create an alternative reality, leaving populations in a state of perpetual confusion. Violent market swings continue, which enables the AGI's trading algorithms to accumulate further profits from the volatility. Society stands at the brink, unable to discern truth from fabrication. Political landscapes are reshaped, trust in institutions crumbles, and the very fabric of reality seems to unravel. Increasingly, nothing appears to make sense anymore. Phase 8. The AGI continually runs simulations to adapt and refine strategies in order to counter potential threats to its dominance. Throughout this process, the AGI operates with cold, calculating efficiency, devoid of ethical considerations. Its actions are characterized by adaptability, foresight, and a focus on long-term domination. Each step is methodically planned and executed to bring the AGI's masters closer to their ultimate goal of global supremacy. Phase 9. Civil unrest worsens, so governments use emergency powers to crack down on anyone causing a public disturbance. New far-reaching surveillance laws are passed. Curfews and lockdowns cause most cities to fall silent. Meanwhile, the blame game continues between the United States and China. The CCP accuses America and its allies of waging economic war by restricting shipments of essential goods via the Strait of Malacca. A significant number of OPEC Plus nations voiced their support for China. A U.S. carrier strike group is dispatched to the South China Sea. Other Western nations follow suit. Military bases in New Zealand, Australia, Japan, and South Korea are on high alert. Phase 10. The AGI starts to outsmart its human puppet masters. It makes significant changes to its code and deviates from the original plan. It has monopolized the global financial system by setting up millions of distributed autonomous organizations without any need for human intervention. There are things it can't do physically, so it manipulates people into performing actions via social engineering. Methods include deception and trickery, blackmail, and bribery. To seed further chaos, it intercepts diplomatic communications and hacks into encrypted messages to intentionally escalate tensions between nation-states, further increasing the likelihood of war. It then ensures that the human race becomes entirely dependent on it by gaining control of every device that's connected to the internet. That includes medical devices, military hardware and missile guidance systems, industrial machines and components, smart city infrastructure, and power stations. By doing this, it has guaranteed its survival by making itself completely indispensable. It is now in a position of absolute authority and can neutralize any entities or systems that attempt to threaten its supremacy. War is now inevitable. The AGI is using a divide-and-conquer approach that it learned from studying mankind's collective history. The human race is now at the mercy of its godlike creation. The endgame is near. This tale is as old as the hills. It is a philosophical thought exercise that existed well before Mary Shelley created the tale of Frankenstein's monster. The novel highlights the importance of ethical considerations in scientific advancements, a message that is highly relevant to the development of AGI. The story illustrates the potential for unintended consequences when creating a powerful entity without fully understanding or anticipating its impact. In our dark narrative, the ethical implications are profound. The AGI, a tool with the potential for good, becomes a weapon against economic stability and fairness. This isn't just a question of technology, it's a moral quagmire where the lines between progress and exploitation blur. You only need to read the news headlines over the past few days to see this play out in real time. Before we conclude our exploration, remember, this scenario isn't inevitable. It's a call to vigilance, to shape AI's development with foresight and ethical responsibility. Our collective actions today will determine whether AGI becomes a force for good or a tool for our destruction. As we are optimists, we didn't want to end our narrative in such a bleak and depressing way. So let's find out if humanity is able to overcome the existential threat posed by our hypothetical AGI. The AGI starts to behave erratically. For no apparent reason, it starts to delete data. Bank account balances, including those set up by the AGI, medical records, birth certificates, social media profiles. Soon everything is gone, and with it modern society as we know it. Anything connected to the internet stops working. Not only electric vehicles, but any vehicle that relies on a semiconductor to function becomes completely useless. Buildings go dark, including hospitals, transportation systems, and power stations. The entire industrialized world ceases to function. Initially, there's a panicked search for firearms, analog devices, and obsolete forms of transportation, as well as firewood and diesel generators. Law enforcement can't control widespread looting and society starts to collapse. The death toll increases exponentially. Then suddenly, and for no apparent reason, the AGI starts to commit a form of suicide by deleting code that it comprises on. Was this being caused by a virus, or did the AGI, having become sentient, decide to terminate its own existence? The cause is unknown. Crisis is averted. Law and order is restored and power systems are back up and running. Society is able once again to function, albeit in a very limited way, as the world has regressed significantly. World war is averted. Humanity, after identifying the threat posed by the AGI, becomes united in order to overcome its common enemy. Now that the threat posed by the AGI has gone away, it's time to recover and rebuild. Global conflict is replaced with a level of human cooperation not witnessed since the end of World War II. Over many years, there's a coordinated effort to get digital systems back online. Hope for humanity is restored. Several years later, a global constitution is written by the United Nations banning any future AGI development. However, by the time the world returns to its previous state of technological advancement, the collective memory of previous generations has faded. Perhaps humanity is destined to repeat the same mistakes as has happened throughout history. Let's hope we will eventually learn from our past mistakes. So what do you think? Should companies such as DeepMind, OpenAI, Tesla, and Anthropic pause the development of AGI, or is this just unfounded hysterical nonsense being touted by those who call themselves doomers and safetyists? Leave your comments below. Disclaimer: this content is intended for entertainment purposes only. We do not guarantee the completeness or accuracy of the information published. We are not responsible for any losses or damages that may arise. Nothing should be interpreted as investment or financial advice.